Hello students, welcome all of you in online lecture series of video number 3. My name is Pooja Subhashrao Deshmukh from International Center of Excellence in Engineering and Management College, Aurangabad. Today is our third lecture on microprocessors and microcontroller. Our today's topics is evolution of microprocessor, in which we will study generations of microprocessor, evolution of microprocessor, and then types of microprocessors, their advantages and disadvantages of microprocessors. So the first topic is generations of microprocessor. In that, first generation microprocessors were introduced in the year of 1971 to 1972. The instructions of these microprocessors were processed serially. They fetch the instruction, decoded and then execute it. First generation microprocessor is Intel 4004 Rockwell International, and the series is PPS 4 Intel 8008, etc. Then in second generation, in the year of 1970s, second generation is evolved. A small number of transistors were available on the integrated circuit in the second generation microprocessors. For example, in second generation microprocessors, there are 16-bit arithmetic, 7 pipeline instructions processing. Motorola is a second generation microprocessor. Processors like Intel 8085, Motorola 6800 and 6801, etc. And the duration of the second generation microprocessors from 1973 to 1978. Next one is the third generation. In third generation, the duration of the third generation is 1979 to 1980. This generation uses HMOS technology. HMOS is a high metal oxide semiconductor fabrication. In third generation, 16-bit processors are used, and the examples are Intel 8086, 80186, 80286 and Motorola 6000, 68000 and 68010, etc. Then third generation arrives. Fourth generation is from 1981 to 1995, and the 32-bit processors are used in this generation using HMOS fabrication. I already tell you that the HMOS technology is a high metal oxide semiconductor technology. And the examples of fourth generation are Intel 80386 and Motorola 68020, etc. Now next generation is fifth generation, and this is the last generation of microprocessor. In fifth generation microprocessors employed decoupled superscalar processing, and the design soon exceeded in 10 million transistors. In the fifth generation, PCs are low margin, high volume business conquered by a single microprocessor. In this generation, 64-bit processors like Pentium, Celeron, dual core and octa-core processors are arrived. And the fifth generation duration from 1995 to till now, we are in the fifth generation. As shown in figure, in first generation there are vacuum tubes. Then in second generation, transistors are arrived. Then in third generation, integrated circuits designed Then fourth generation, in fourth generation microprocessor chips are designed, and then after fifth generation, in the fifth generation there is artificial intelligence is arrived, and now we are in the fifth generation who's using artificial intelligence technology. Then evolution of microprocessor. Evolution of microprocessor is divided into 5 types. First is 4-bit microprocessor, second is 8-bit microprocessor, then third is 16-bit microprocessor. After that, fourth is 32-bit microprocessor, and the last one is 64-bit microprocessor. Now we will see one by one. In 4-bit microprocessor, the Intel 4004 and 4040 was invented in the year of 1971 by Stanley Maser and Ted Hoff. The clock speed of this microprocessor is 740 kilohertz, and the number of transistors used in this microprocessor is 2300, and the instructions per second is 60k, and the number of pins of the microprocessor is using 16 pins. Then next is 8-bit microprocessor. The 8008 processor was invented in the year of 1972, and the clock speed uses is 500 kilohertz, and the instructions per second is 50k. The 8080 microprocessor was invented in the year of 1974, and the clock speed is 2 megahertz. The number of transistors used by this processor is 60k, and instructions are 10 times quicker as compared to the 8008 processor. The next one is 8085 microprocessor, which is invented in the year of 1976, and the clock speed usage is 3 megahertz. Number of transistors are used in 6500, and the instructions per second is 76930, and the number of pins for this microprocessor is 40 pins. Now third type of microprocessor is 16-bit microprocessor. The 8086 microprocessor was invented in the year of 1978. The clock speed of this microprocessor is 4.77, 8 and 10 megahertz simultaneously. The number of transistors used is 29,000 transistors, and the instructions per second is 2.5 million. Number of pins for this microprocessor are 40 pins. And 16-bit microprocessor, next type is 8080 microprocessor, which is invented in the year of 1979, and this processor uses instructions per second is 2.5 millions per second. Then next one is the 80286 16-bit microprocessor. This processor is invented in the year of 1982. Then the clock speed usage is 8 megahertz, and the number of transistors is 1,34,000, and the instructions per second is 4 million instructions. The number of pins of this microprocessor uses is 68 pins. Then last one is the 32-bit microprocessor. 32-bit microprocessor is the Intel 80386 microprocessor, which is invented in the year of 1986. The clock speed of this processor is 33 megahertz, 16 to 33 megahertz clock speed. And the number of transistors uses is 2,75,000 transistors. The number of pins of this microprocessor is 132 by 14 x 14 PGA. Next one is Intel 80486 microprocessor. This microprocessor is invented in the year of 1986 and the clock speed of this processor is 16 MHz to 100 MHz. Then number of transistors is 1.2 million transistors and the instructions per second is 8 KB of cache memory. Then number of pins are 168, 17 x 17 PGA pin grid array. Then next one is Pentium processor. This processor is invented in the year of 1993 and the clock speed is 66 MHz. Instructions per second is cache memory 8 bit for instructions of 8 bit for data and the number of pins of this microprocessor is 237 PGA. Now 64-bit microprocessor, last one is the Intel Core 2 microprocessor was invented in the year of 2006 and the clock speed of this processor is 1.2 GHz to 3 GHz and the number of transistors used is 291 million and the instructions per second is 64 KB of L1 cache for each core of 4 MB of L2 cache. Then i3, i5, i7 processors was invented in the year of 2007, 9 and 10 simultaneously. Then the clock speed uses this processors is 2 GHz, 3.3 GHz, 2.4 GHz to 3.6 GHz and 2.9 GHz to 3.3 GHz simultaneously. Now the next point is our types of microprocessors. There are 3 types of microprocessor. First one is complex instruction set microprocessor, second is reduced instruction set microprocessor and third one is superscalar microprocessor. Now we will see one by one. First one is complex instruction set microprocessor. The processors are designed to minimize the number of instructions per program and ignore the number of cycles per instructions. Then the compiler is used to translate a high level language to assembly level language because the length of the code is relatively short and an extra RAM is used to store the instructions. Then apart from these tasks, their microprocessors can perform complex mathematical calculations in a single command. Then the processors can do tasks like downloading, uploading and recalling data from memory. And the example of this microprocessor is IBM 370 by 168 and VAX 11 divided by 11 by 780. The next is reduced instruction set microprocessor. These processors are made according to the function. They are designed to reduce the execution time by using the simplified instruction set. They can carry out small things in specific commands and these processors complete commands at faster rate. Also, they require only one clock cycle to implement a result at uniform execution time. Then there are number of registers and smaller number of transistors to access the memory location load and store instructions. And the example is Power PC 601, 604, 615, 620, etc. Then next is superscalar microprocessor, and the last type of microprocessor. These processors can perform many tasks at a time. Also, they can be used for the ALUs, arithmetic logic units, and multiplier like array. They have multiple operations unit and perform tasks by executing a multiple commands. This is the block diagram of RISC architecture, which consists of main memory, instruction cache, hardwired control unit, data path, and data cache. RISC architecture can be used with high-end applications like telecommunication, image processing, video processing, etc. And this is the CISC architecture, which consists of micro program control unit, then control unit, instruction and data path, cache and main memory. Also, this architecture can be used with the low end applications like home automation, security system, etc. Now, what are the advantages of microprocessor? It is high processing speed and compact in size, also easy maintenance. Then it can perform complex mathematics and flexible. It can be improved according to requirements. What are the disadvantages of microprocessor? Disadvantages are overheating occurs due to overuse. Then performance depends on the size of data, large board size than microcontrollers. Then most microprocessors do not support floating point operations. These are the advantages and disadvantages of microprocessors. Now here our first point is completed, that is evolution of microprocessor. Thank you very much.